Sailor Moon Crystal, Truth or Bluff. This is a Sailor Moon themed game, obviously, but not the kind of game that I like. The theme is pretty thin, and I'm still waiting for a copy of the game that actually fits the theme of the original stories, in which you are playing the role of the sailor suited pretty guardians and you are fighting against the evil villains, but, well, this is not quite yet. It is, in fact, a fairly abstract bluffing game with at least art inspired by Sailor Moon, which is, I don't know, better than a bluffing game without it, but still, not quite yet. In any case, Truth or Bluff, this is a game in which, well, you will try to bluff and you will score points for bluffing effectively and for reading other people's intentions, for figuring out when they're bluffing or when they're being truthful. The game will last until one or two conditions apply. One condition is always the same. The game ends when one player needs to play a tile and there's none in their holder. Each player has a holder. And then there is a stack of other random conditions and you draw one randomly and you place it there in the middle of the table. So that will give you different ways in which the game ends, and those ways can change and will change from game to game. You have a bag with victory point tokens. When a player scores, they will simply draw a tile from that bag and they will keep the token secretly face down next to their personal holder, and they will score those at the end of the game. And then we have, yes, the personal holder. Each player has an holder such as this one, and then you have a bag full of tiles representing characters from Sailor Moon. Many of them are our heroes, either Sailor Moon or Tuxedo Mask or other sailor fighters. Some are black and white, as you can see, but that has no game effects. It is only that there may be references in some of these endgame tiles that say when a certain number of those just outline characters is revealed and the game is over. Otherwise we have, you know, Sailor Jupiter, Sailor Venus, and Sailor Moon, Sailor Mercury. Of course, we also had Chibi Sailor. That's kind of funny because everybody looks a little bit chibi in the art of this game, but there's one of them that is legitimately, officially chibi, and this is, there you go, this is Chibi Sailor Moon, Chibi Usagi, and this is non-Chibi Usagi, clearly separated at birth, but still. So you shuffle together all of these styles, you put them in this bag, and then each player will draw a number of these tiles and place them in their personal holder, making sure that the other players don't see what those are. And we like to place them this way, kind of like facing forward, because this makes it harder for other people to mistakenly see your tiles, because if other people see what they have, really, then there's no point. Now, some tiles represent villains, as you can see, and there are special effects related to the villains. We'll see what that means. Then also it may happen that if you play with adults, not everybody's familiar with the characters in the franchise. Not everybody may be able to tell at a glance Sailor Jupiter from Sailor Mercury. So luckily enough, the back of the rule book can act as a player aid. In fact, we like to keep it in the middle of the table and we give it to the next player that is taking their turn. When it is your turn, pretty simple. You select one of your tiles and you put it face down on the table, and then you offer it to another player, declaring what the tile is, well, or isn't. You say what the tile is, but you can lie. So you can say, oh, I'm giving you Tuxedo Mask, or of course you can say, while offering this tile, oh, I'm giving you Sailor Moon. Now, the player that receives the tile has two chances. They can two options. They can look and pass, or they can challenge. If they look and pass, they declare that they're going to do so. They look at it, and then they pass this to another player, and they can say whatever they want. Like, oh yeah, Marco was, look at that, Marco was honest. That is Sailor Moon. Maybe that's what they said. Or like, I'd say Sailor Moon, and someone says, well, no, Marco actually was lying. This is Sailor Venus. So basically this can be passed around, but only until pretty much it goes to the last player. A player cannot be offered a tile twice. If it gets to the last player, then the player has to challenge. But again, every time that somebody is passed a token, the player can challenge. When you're challenging, then you're simply saying truth or bluff. You say truth if you think that the statement is correct, that that is the character that you were told it was, and you say bluff if you think that the statement that you received together with the tile was not truthful. Here's this tile, somebody says, this is Sailor Moon, and I say, bluff. Hooray, I win the challenge. Or I say, yeah, that's correct, I think you're telling the truth, that is Sailor Moon. Oops, I lose the challenge. Now, basically, in the challenge, the player that loses the challenge will take the tile and place it next to their holder face up. This is used for several game effects, but especially for end of game purposes. Like a certain number of characters are face up next to a player, then the game is over. So the losing player will take the tile and put it face up next to their holder, and the player that won the challenge will draw a victory tile and place it face down in the personal area. The villains work similarly. When you're offering them, you can only lie. You can only and always lie. That's all you can do. So you're always bluffing because you have to say the name of one of the main characters, one of the heroes. So I say, oh, look at this one, Tuxedo Mask. So you have to bluff. And then when a challenge is resolved, it works opposite than it works here. In this case, it is the winning person, the person that won the bluff, that takes the tile and resolves the effect indicated on the villain tile, and it is the losing person that lost the challenge that will draw a victory token. As simple as that. The game continues, so, and then the player that received the token becomes the next active player, so it becomes the next player to choose one of the tiles and to pass it around. This is how the game works. You continue like this, offering tiles, passing them around, challenging or not challenging, up until one of the two end game conditions are met. At that point, the game is over. You count victory points, and the player with the most points wins the game. So, Sailor Moon Crystal, truth or bluff? This is not the game about Sailor Moon that I most desire to play. I'm still waiting for a cooperative game with this theme and that really engages with the theme. Rather, a perfectly abstract game that happens to have Sailor Moon art on the components. And yet, a game that surprised me a lot, pleasantly surprised me. When I read the rules, I couldn't escape the feel that it was going to be about 50% chance. I give you this one, can be 50% true, 50% bluff, a little bit more, a little bit less, but what's the big deal? And then we played a game night with my adult friends and also with my daughter Amelia, who is 9. So she came to the first game of the game night, which was this one, because she's also a big Sailor Moon fan, and so she wanted to try it. Turns out we all liked it. Not just my daughter that likes everything that has Sailor Moon on it. Adult friends that are pretty hardcore gamers, we had a good time. I was surprised. I almost started thinking, look, friends, my daughter is here. She would like to try this game. Can we please? And ended the game being like, whoa, I'm so glad that we played this game. And everybody had a good time, again, including the hardcore gamers. I guess I am lucky. I have friends that can play the hardcore stuff, but can also unplug from time to time, switch gears, and enjoy a game which is light but not mindless. And this is the beauty that revealed itself as we played. The game was so much more than just randomly deciding 50% or making decisions at 50% chances. Why? The first obvious thing is that if I have a lot of a kind, then I know there are fewer chances that the people will be giving me that, because there aren't many around. Of course, that also means that well, right there, that's something that I can make decisions about. And then as the game progresses, more and more characters will be revealed, which makes things, again, trickier because everybody starts having a good understanding of what may be there or not. In a game, for example, Chibi Uzagi, she kept coming up. And a lot of those were already on the table. And everybody kept claiming that they had Chibi Uzagi. And we were like, is this the last one available or just messing with me? Fun stuff started happening. And again, even if you pay attention, what people are likely to call true for bluff maybe informs you about something that they have. If in fact I give Sailor Vino, I give something claiming it's Sailor Vino to somebody and they immediately say, bluff, are they telling me that, well, are they telegraphing me without knowing it, that they have a lot of Sailor Venus? Why did they make the decision so quickly? A lot of interesting little wrinkles there. And then you start into these mind games. I did this one. Oh, you say Sailor Moon? Bluff. Oh, it turns out it is Sailor Moon. I give it to another player. The other player looks at it. Oh no, you both were lying. It's Sailor Jupiter. Mind games. What's going on? And once the thing starts bouncing around a little bit, while I, from reading the rules, thought that would weaken the game, would kill the pace, somehow the tension mounts. Although it's just in the mind of the players, because mechanically, it's the chit is still worth exactly what it was worth the first time that it was offered to a player. But people are gonna laugh more. I'm gonna launch in some friendly banter and make more jokes after it has been passed around and tension has mounted. So you have these nice climaxes as the tension builds, but not to the point that then you feel unconnected with the game. Now, of course, there is an element of trying to avoid somebody to get too ahead. So maybe you don't want to pass the token to somebody. And so the fear, again, my fear was that somebody would be excluded from the game. They do well early on, then no one passes them tokens, so they don't have any chance to score. But sooner or later, well, there's a balancing mechanism, and all of a sudden John has 3 victory tokens, everybody has 2, is not so prohibitive anymore to pass to that player, and especially if there are other things that I'm considering that may make it desirable. So I also thought that it has the balancing mechanism. You're trying not to give that to players that are too much ahead, but at the same time, not to the point that doesn't result in people feeling excluded, and there's just so many of these little interesting decisions, little interesting elements that give flavor to a game that felt a little bit too dry, and I was a little bit worried about it from the rulebook. It turned out to be a true success. Sailor Moon Crystal, Truth or Bluff. It's not the cooperative thematic game about Sailor Moon that I would like to play. It is probably not even a game about Sailor Moon, but it happens to be a fun bluffing game. Maybe you already have Cockroach Poker or some other games with the same mechanics, so there isn't much money for you to add this to your collection unless you, like me, are a big Sailor Moon fan. Maybe you don't have games of this kind, and then, well, this would be a good implementation of that idea, because it's a simple bluffing game, but definitely a good one.